the mood for. I promise I'll make some like normal ASMR videos after this, but I have this book that I got from the library and I have to return it soon, so I want to read the poems in this, and yeah, it's just going to be another relaxing video for sleep. I think this time I'm just going to do whispering instead of soft-spoken like I did for my Grimm's Fairy Tale video, so whispering this time. Hopefully you enjoy. But this book is the favorite poems of Emily Dickinson. I'm hoping it won't be too long because a majority of them look very short, but it is a lot of pages, so we'll see. It's like 100-something pages. But anyway. So it says, this was edited by two of her friends, Mabel Loomis Todd and T.W. Higginson, with an introduction by Carrie Wilkins, which reads, "Nobody, not even the rain, has such small hands." I've heard that quote before. I've seen people have it tattooed, actually. Tennessee Williams used these words of E.E. Cummings as an epigraph to his play, The Glass Menagerie. They describe the character of Laura Wingfield, a shy recluse girl who lives in her own private world. They are also a perfect description of Emily Dickinson, oh my God, one of the most important poets in American literature. Even though we cannot see a drop of rain filtering through the soil, we know that it may eventually supply nourishment to a seed, which will take root and blossom. But only a very few people knew about the seeds of ideas that were nourished by the unseen hands of Emily Dickinson. The hundreds of poems that blossomed from her pen were discovered by her astonished sister not until after her death in 1886. Born on December 10th, 1830, she spent most of her life in Amherst, Massachusetts. A school friend recalled that although Emily was shy and retiring, there was no indication of her future reclusive life. She began writing poems in the 1850s, and her creative activity reached a peak in 1862. After that year, she withdrew more and more into herself and eventually did not go out of the house. It was therefore surprising to read her Letter to the World, a treasury of poems that expands one's comprehension of life, love, nature, and immortality. Through her keen observation of people and things around her, and through her deeply introspective nature, she was able to write about universal themes and feelings, and she dealt with these themes in several different ways. Casual readers of Emily Dickinson are probably familiar with only one or two sides of her personality. If I Can Stop One Heart from Breaking is one poem that is often associated with her. Or one may know her cute and impish side. I'm Nobody, Who Are You? She could also write, however, a poem as striking and penetrating as Ingmar Bergman's best films. There's a certain slant of light on winter afternoons. In her poem, The Bustle in a House, she uses the most unusual yet the most appropriate images to show how death affects one. The sweeping of the heart and putting love away, the images of violence and death in the poem. Two swimmers wrestled on the spar are not what some people would expect from the belle of Amherst. She dared to break away from conventional poetic techniques by experimenting with unusual rhythms and near rhythms. Her ability to pair a phrase to its essence is what makes her best poems so startlingly alive. Her originality makes them fresh even after all these years. If fame belonged to me, I could not escape her. If she did not, the longest day would pass me on the chase, and the approbation of my dog would forsake me then. These words appear in a letter to Thomas Wentworth Higginson, one of the first editors of her poems, and explain why she did not want her poems published. How dreary to be somebody, how public, like a frog. In addition to Mr. Higginson, She corresponded with a few close friends, Hills and the Sundown, and a large dog large as myself. These were the only companions she desired. Mr. Higginson and Mabel Loomis Todd took on the job of editing her poems after her death. The first volume appeared in 1890 and is reprinted here in its entirety. 6 poems from the second volume are also included. Gradually, she became recognized as an important voice in American literature, and all her poems and letters were eventually published. Emily Dickinson dedicated herself to telling the simple news that nature told. One can describe her poetic gift with the words of E.E. Cummings, just as she described the mysteries of nature with these words. Her message is committed to hands I cannot see. So, we've got the preface and the prelude, and then it's separated into book 1, Life, and that's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27 poems in it. Book 2 is Love, with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 poems. And then book 3 is Nature, with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 33. Oops. Excuse me. And then book 4 is Time and Eternity. This one's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43. So I don't think I'm going to be able to read all of these, and I only really want to make one video, so I'm gonna choose my favorites basically just from skimming, and you guys can kind of like enjoy the ones that I choose. And if you're interested in reading this book, you can. I'll probably read the titles of the poems, and then I'll give a little skim. And if I think it's pretty and I like it, then I'll read the whole poem to you. I'm gonna read this preface and stuff to you, though, of course. The verses of Emily Dickinson belong empathetically to what Emerson long since called the poetry of the portfolio, something produced absolutely without the thought of publication and solely by way of expression of the writer's own mind. Such verse must inevitably forfeit whatever advantage lies in the discipline of public criticism and the enforced conformity to accepted ways. On the other hand, it may often gain something through the habit of freedom and the unconventional utterance of daring thoughts. In the case of the present author, there is absolutely no choice in the matter. She must write thus or not at all. A recluse by temperament and habit, literally spending years without setting her foot beyond the doorstep, and many more years during which her walks were strictly limited to her father's grounds, she habitually concealed her mind, like her person, from all but very few friends, and it was with great difficulty that she was persuaded to print during her lifetime 3 or 4 poems. Yet she wrote poems in great abundance, and though curiously indifferent to all conventional rules, had yet a rigorous literary standard of her own, and often altered a word many times to suit an air which had its own tenacious fastidiousness. Miss Dickinson was born in Amherst, Massachusetts, December 10th, 1830, and died there May 15th, 1886. Her father, Hon Edward Dickinson, was the leading lawyer of Amherst and was treasurer of the well-known college there situated. It was his custom once a year to hold a large reception at his house, attended by all the families connected with the institution and by the leading people of the town. On these occasions, his daughter Emily emerged from her wonted retirement and did her part as gracious hostess, nor would anyone would have known from her manner. I've been told that this was not a daily occurrence. The annual occasion once passed, she withdrew again to her seclusion, and except for very few friends, was as invisible to the world as if she had dwelt in a nunnery. For myself, although I had corresponded with her for many years, I saw her but twice face to face, and brought away the impression of something as unique and remote as Undine or Mignon or Thalclad. The selection from her poems is published to meet the desire of her personal friends and especially of her surviving sister. It is believed that the thoughtful reader will find in these pages a quality more suggestive of the poetry of William Blake than of anything to be elsewhere found. Flashes of wholly original and profound insight into nature and life, words and phrases exhibiting an extraordinary vividness of descriptive and imaginative power, and yet often set in a seemingly whimsical or even rugged frame. They are here published as they were written, with very few and superficial changes. Although it is fair to say that the titles have been assigned almost invariably by the editors, in many cases these verses will seem to the reader like poetry torn up by the roots, with rain and dew and earth still clinging to them, giving them a freshness and fragrance not otherwise to be conveyed. In other cases, as in the few poems of shipwreck or of mental conflict, we can only wonder at the gift of vivid imagination by which this recluse woman can delineate by a few touches the very crisis of physical or mental struggle, and sometimes again we catch glimpses of a lyric stain, sustained perhaps but for a line or two at a time, and making the reader regret its sudden cessation. But the main quality of these poems is that of extraordinary grasp and insight, uttered with an uneven vigor, sometimes exasperating, seemingly wayward, but really unsought and inevitable. After all, when a thought takes one's breath away, a lesson on grammar, seeds, and impertinence. As Ruskin wrote in his earlier and better days, no weight, nor mass, nor beauty of execution can outweigh one grain or fragment of thought. And that was by Thomas Wentworth Higginson. This is my letter to the world that never wrote to me, the simple news that nature told with tender majesty. Her message is committed to hands I cannot see, for love of her sweet countrymen, pledged tenderly of me. So, Book 1, Life. First poem is Success, which was published in a masque of poems at the request of H.H., the author's fellow townsman and friend. Success is counted sweetest by those who near succeed. To comprehend nectar requires sorest need. Not one of all the purple host who took the flag today can tell the definition so clear of victory, as he defeated dying on whose forbidden ear the distant strains of triumph break agonized and clear. Our share of night to bear, our share of morning, our blank in bliss to fill, our blank in scorning. Here a star and there a star, some lose their way. Here a mist and there a mist, afterwards day. 3. Rogue et noir, soul wilt thou toss again by judds, such a hazard, hundreds of lost indeed, but tens of one at all. Angel's breathless ballad lingers to record thee, imps and eager caucus raffle for my soul. 4. Rogue gang ganing, not quite sure, it's G-A-G-N-E. 'Tis so much joy if I should fail, what poverty. And yet as poor as I have ventured all upon a throw I've gained, yes, hesitated so this side of victory. The victory. Life is but life, and death but death. Bliss is but bliss, and breath but breath. And if indeed I fail, at least to know the worst is sweet. Defeat means nothing but defeat, no drearier but can prevail. And if I gain, O gun at sea, O bells that in steeples beat, at first repeated slow. For heaven is a different thing, conjectured and awakened, sudden in, and might overwhelm me so. Let's see. 5. Glee, the great storm is over. 4 have recovered the land. 40 gone down together into the boiling sand. Ring for the scant salvation, toll for the bonny souls. Neighbor and friend and bridegroom spinning upon the shoals. How will they tell the shipwreck when the winter shakes the door? Till the children ask, but the 40, did they come back no more? Then a silence suffuses the story, and a softness the teller's eye, and the children no further question, and only the waves reply. 6. If I can stop one heart from breaking, I shall not live in vain. If I can ease one life the aching, or cool one pain, or help one fainting robin unto his nest again, I shall not live in vain. 7. Almost within my reach, I could have touched, I might have chanced the way. Soft sauntered through the village, sauntered as soft away. So unsuspected violets within the fields lie low. Too late for striving fingers that passed an hour ago. A wounded deer leaps highest, I've heard the hunter tell. 'Tis but the ecstasy of death, and then the break is still. The smitten rock that gushes, the trampled steel that springs. A cheek is always redder, just where the heretic stings. Breath is the mail of anguish, and which is a cautious arm, lest anybody spy the blood, and you're hurt, exclaim. The heart asks pleasure first, and then excuse from pain, and then those little Antonines that deaden suffering, and then to go to sleep, and then, if it should be the will of its inquisitor, the liberty to die. In a library, a precious, moldering pleasure, 'tis to meeting an ancient book, an antique book, in just the dress a century wore, a privilege, I think, his venerable hand to take, and a warming in our own, a passage bag or two to make, 2 times when he was young, his quaint opinions to inspect, his knowledge to untold, on what concerns our mutual mind, the literature of old, what interested scholars most, what competitions ran when Plato was certainty, and Sophocles a man, when Sappho was a living girl, and Beatrice wore the gown that Dante defied, back centuries before. He traverses familiar as one should come to town, and tell you all your dreams were true. He lived where dreams were sown, his presence an enchantment. You beg him not to go, old volumes shake their valiant heads, and tantalize just so. Exclusion, the soul selects her own society, then shuts the door on her divine majority. Obtrude no more. Unmoved, she notes the chariots pausing at her low gate. Unmoved, an emperor is kneeling upon her mat. I've known her from an ample nation choose one, then close the valves of her attention like stone. The secret. Some things that fly there be, birds, ours, the bumblebee. Of these no elegy. Some things that stay there be. Grief hills, eternity, nor this behoove me. There are that resting rise. Can I expound those skies? How still the riddle lies. Dawn, when night is almost done and sunrise grows so near that we can touch the spaces, it's time to smooth the hair and get the temples ready and wonder we could care for the old faded midnight that frightened but an hour. The Book of Martyrs reads sweet how others strove till we are stouter, what they renounced till we are less afraid, how many times they bore the faithful witness, so we are helped as if a kingdom cared. Read then of faith that shone above the packet. Clear strains of I am. The river could not drown brave names of men, and celestial women passed out of record into renown. The mystery of pain. Pain has has an element of blank it cannot recollect when it began, or if there were a day when it was not. It has no furniture but itself. Its infinite realms contain its past, enlightened to perceive new periods of pain. I had no time to hate because the grave would hinder me, and life was not so ample I could finish enmity. Nor had I time to love, but since some industry must be, the little toil of love I thought was large enough for me. Whether my bark went down at sea, whether she met with gales, whether to isles enchanted she bent her docile sails, by what mystic morning she sailed today, this is the errand of the eye once upon the bay. Book 2, Love. First poem is called Mine. Mine by the right of the white election, mine by the royal sea, mine by the sign in the scarlet prison bars cannot conceal, mine here in vision and in veto, mine by the grave's repeal, tilted confirmed, delirious charter, mine while the ages seal. To bequest, you left me sweet two legacies, a legacy of love a heavenly father would content, had he the offer of. You left me boundaries of pain, capacious as the sea, between eternity and time, your consciousness and me. 3. Alter when the hills do, falter when the sun, question if his glory be the perfect one, serve it when the daffodil doth the dew, even as friend, oh friend, I will of you. 4. Suspense. Elysium is as far as to the very nearest room. If in that room a friend wait, felicity or doom. What fortitude the soul contains, that it can so endure the accent of a coming foot, the opening of a door. 5. Surrender. Doubt me, my dim companion, why God would be content with but a fraction of the love poured thee without a stint. The whole of me forever, what more the woman can. Say quick that I may dower thee with last delight I own. It cannot be my spirit, for that was thine before. I see till all of dust I knew. What opulence the more had I, a humble maiden, whose farthest of degree was that she might, some distant heaven, dwell timidly with thee. If you were coming in the fall, I'd brush the summer by with half a smile and half a spurn, as housewives do a fly. If I could see you in a year, I'd wind the months in balls and put them together in separate drawers until their time befalls. If only centuries delayed, I'd count them on my hand, subtracting till my fingers dropped into Van Diemen's land. If certain when this life is out that yours and mine should be, I'd toss it yonder like a ride and taste eternity. But now, all ignorant of the length of time's uncertain wing, it goads me like the goblin bee that will not state its sting. With a flower I hide myself, within my flower, that wearing on your breast, you unsuspecting wear me too, and angels know the rest. I hide myself within my flower, that fading from your face, you unsuspecting feel for me almost a loneliness. Have you got a brook in your little heart, where bashful flowers blow, and blushing birds go down to drink, and shadows tremble so, and nobody knows, so still it flows, that any brook is there, and yet your little draught of life is daily drunken there? Then look out for the little brook in March, when the rivers overflow and the snows come hurrying from the hills, and the bridges often go. And later in August it may be, when the meadows parching lie, beware lest this little brook of life some burning noon go dry. Transplanted as if some little arctic flower upon the polar hem, went wandering down the latitudes until it puzzled came to continents of summer, to firmaments of sun, to strange bright crowds of flowers and birds of foreign tongue. I say as if this little flower to Eden wandered in. What then? Why nothing, only your interference therefrom. First baptism. I'm seated, I've stopped being theirs. The name they dropped upon my face with water in the country church is finished using now. And they can put it with my dolls, my childhood, and the string of spoils I've finished threading too. Baptized before without the choice, but this time consciously of grace, unto us supremest name. Called to my full, the crescent dropped, existence's whole arc filled up with one small diadem, my second rake too small the first, crowning on my father's breast, a half unconscious queen, but this time adequate, erect, with will to choose or to reject, and I choose just a throne. Resurrection. 'Twas a long parting, but the time for interview had come, before the judgment seat of God, the last and second time. These fleshless lovers met. A heaven and a gaze, a heaven of heavens, the privilege of one another's eyes. No lifetime set on them. Apparelled as the new and born, except they have beheld, born everlasting now. Whose bridal ear like this, a paradise the host, a cherubim and a seraphim the most familiar guest. The wife, she rose to his requirement, dropped the playthings of her life to take the honorable work of woman and of wife. If aught she missed in her new day of amplitude or awe, or first perspective or the gold, in musing wore away, it lay unmentioned as the sea develops pearl and weed, but only to him is known the fathoms they abide. Apotheosis, come slowly, Eden. Lips unused to thee, a bashful sip by jasmines as the fainting bee, reaching late as flower, round his chamber hums, counts his nectars, enters, and is lost in balms. Book 3, Nature. 1. New feet within my garden go, new fingers stir the sod, a trapdoor upon the elm betrays the solitude, new children play upon the green, new weary sleep below, and still the pensive spring returns, and still the punctual snow. 2. Mayflower, pink, small, punctual, aromatic, low, convert in April, candid in May, dear to the moss, unknown by the noli, next to the robin and every human soul, bold little beauty, bedecked with thee, nature forswears antiquity. Why? The murmur of the bee, a witchcraft yieldeth me. If any ask me why, 'twere easier to die than tell. That rat upon the hill, take it away from me. If anybody sneer, take care, for God is here. That's all. The breaking of the day added to my degree. If any ask me how, artists who truly so must tell. 4. Perhaps you'd like to buy a flower, but I could never sell. If you would like to borrow until the daffodil unties her yellow bonnet beneath the village door, until the bees from clover rose their hawk and cherry draw, why I will lend until just then, but not an hour more. The pedigree of honey does not concern the bee. A clover any time to him is aristocracy. The bee is not afraid of me. I know the butterfly. The pretty people in the woods receive me cordially. The brooks laugh louder when I come. The breezes madder play. Wherefore mine eyes thy silver mists? Wherefore our summer's day? Summer shower. A drop fell on the apple tree, another on the roof. A half a dozen kissed the eaves and made the gables laugh. A few went out to help the brook, that went to help the sea. Myself conjectured, were they pearls, what necklaces could be. The dust replaced in hoisted roads, the birds jocoser sung, the sunshine threw his hat away, the orchard's spangles hung. The breezes brought dejected lutes and bathed them in the glee. The east put out a single flag inside the feet away. The sea of the sunset. This is the land the sunset washes. These are the banks of the yellow sea, where it rose or whither it rushes. These are the western mystery, night after night. Her purple traffic strews the landing with opal bales. Merchantmen poise upon horizons, dip and vanish with fairy sails. Purple clover. There is a flower that bees prefer, and butterflies desire to gain the purple democrat. The hummingbirds aspire, and whatsoever insects pass, a honey bears away, proportioned to his several dearth and her capacity. Her face is rounder than the moon, and ruddier than the gown of Orchis in the pasture. O'roded and drawn, worn, she doth not wait for June before the world is green. Her sturdy little countenance against the wind is seen, contending with the grass near Kingsman to herself, for privilege of sod and sun, sweet litigants for life, and when the hills are full, and newer fashions blow, doth not reject a single spice for a pang of jealousy. Her public is the noon, her providence the sun, her progress by the bee proclaimed in sovereign severalist tune. The bravest of the host, surrendering the last, nor even of defeat aware, when cancelled by the frost. As children bed, the guests good night, and then reluctant turn. By flowers raise their pretty lips, then put their nightgowns on. As children caper when they wake, merry that it is morn. By flowers from 100 cribs where peep and prance again. So bashful when I spied her, so pretty, so ashamed, so hidden in her leaflets, lest anyone find, so breathless till I passed her, so helpless when I turned, and bore her struggling, blushing, her simple haunts beyond. For whom I robbed the tinkle, for whom I betrayed the tell, many will doubtless ask me, but I shall never tell. The butterfly's assumption gown in chrysoprase apartments hung, this afternoon put on, how condescending to descend and be of buttercups the friend in a New England town. Death and life, apparently with no surprise to any happy flower, the frost beheads it as its play, an accidental power. The blonde assassin passes on, the sun proceeds unmoved, to measure of another day for an approving God. The hemlock. I think the hemlock likes to stand upon a marge of snow. It soothes on austerity and satisfies an awe that man must slake in wilderness or in desert cloy, an instinct for the hoar, the bald, Lapland's necessity. The hemlock's nature thrives on cold. The nourish of modern northern winds is sweet and nutrient to him. His best Norwegian wines. To satin races he is not, but children on the dawn, beneath his tabernacles play, and tonight by rustlers run. Book 4, Time and Eternity. One dignity delays for all. One wintry at afternoon. None can avoid this purple, none evade this crown. Coach it, insurers and footmen, chamber and state and throng. Bells also in the village as we ride grand along. What dignified attendance, what service when we pause. How loyal at parting, their 100 hats they raise. How pomp surpassing ermine, when simple you and I present our meek escutcheon, and claim the rank to die. Astra Castra departed to the judgment, a mighty afternoon. Great clouds, like ushers leaning, creation looking on. The flesh surrounded, cancelled. The body lists began Two worlds like audiences disperse and leave the soul alone. Look back on time with kindly eyes. He doubtless did his best. How softly sinks his trembling sun in human nature's west. I died for beauty, but was scarce adjusted in the tomb, when one who died for truth was lain in an adjoining room. He questioned softly why I failed. For beauty, I replied, and I for truth, and two are one. We brethren are, he said, and so as kingsmen met a night, we talked between the rooms until the moss had reached our lips and covered up our names. Funeral, that short potential stir that each can make but once, that bustle so illustrious, 'tis almost consequence, is the eclat of death, O thou unknown renown, that not a beggar would accept, had he the power to spurn. I went to thank her, but she slept, her bed of funneled stone, with nosegays at the head and foot that travelers had thrown. Who went to thank her, but she slept. 'Twas short to cross the sea, to look upon her like alive, but turning back 'twas slow. Playmates, God permits, industrious angels, afternoons to play. I met one, forgot my schoolmates, all for him straight away. God calls home the angels promptly at the setting sun. I missed mine, how dreary marbles after playing crown. The bustle in a house the morning after death is solemnest of industries enacted upon earth, the sweeping of the heart and putting love away we shall not want to use again until eternity. The chariot, because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves in immortality. We slowly drove, he knew no hassle, and I had put away my labor and my leisure too, for his civility. We passed the school while children played, their lessons scarcely done. We passed the fields of grazing grain, we passed the setting sun. We paused before a house that seemed a swelling of the ground. The roof was scarcely visible, the cornice but a mound. Since then, 'tis centuries, but each feels shorter than the day I first surmised the horses' heads were toward eternity. She went as quiet as the dew from a familiar flower. Not like the dew did she return at the accustomed hour. She dropped as softly as a star from out my summer's eve, less skillful than Levier, its soarer to believe. Except to heaven she is not, except for angels alone, except to some wide wandering bee, a flower superfluous blown, except for winds provincial, except by butterflies, unnoticed as a single dew that on the acre lies. The smallest housewife in the grass can take her from the lawn, and someday somebody has lost the face that made existence home. Death is a dialogue between the spirit and the dust. Dissolve, say death, the spirit, sir, I have another trust. Death doubts it, argues from the ground, the spirit turns away, just lying off for evidence an overcoat of clay. One last one. Sleep is supposed to be, by souls of sanity, the shutting of the eye. Sleep is the station grand down which can, and on either hand, the hosts of witness stand. Morn is supposed to be, by people of degree, the breaking of the day. Morning has not occurred, I that shall aurora be east of eternity. One with the banner gay, one in the red array, that is the break of day. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed these poems. I really liked them. I wouldn't say that any of them were my favorite poems ever, but I still appreciated them. And yeah, I I'm a little inspired to write some of my own poetry. I've been meaning to do that for a while now, or at least start just like doing some writing before I go to bed. Whether it's just like an idea, or like whether I do just like a one-word prompt, or I write a little short story. I just want to start doing that. But yeah, I'm gonna do that, and I hope that you sleep well. Good night, good night, good night, good night. Good night, good night, good night, good night, good night, good night, good night. Sleep tight and don't let the bed bugs bite.